So a couple of weeks ago, as you by now know, Facebook launched a bunch of new features. Probably the most interesting one is Timeline. And as you saw in the clever mashup there, the new feature is going to allow you to see your content based on a timeline, not just on topics or features. So what Facebook has done is really take familiar content but given it new meaning by changing the context that it's displayed in. So, fair question, what does this have to do with CMO dashboards? I think if you look at the landscape of decisioning software and dashboards, there's certainly plenty of companies that can take ugly data and present it in beautiful ways. But today we're joined by two, in our opinion, really innovative solutions and to companies that create dashboards and marketing decisioning tools based on this notion of time. And so we think that there's something really interesting in being able to take familiar data and show it on a timeline basis, and the ability to extract deeper meaning, deeper insights around consumers, consumer behavior, and ultimately marketing effectiveness. So very happy to be joined by two panelists, two CEOs, Tyler Pepple, CEO of Infomotor and Ticker, and Tony Hale, CEO of Chartbeat. I'm running two multiple screens here, so I'm going to turn it over to Tyler, and I'll start by saying the first question is, tell us briefly about your company, what business problem you're trying to solve.
I love this theme of time, and if we can back up a little bit. Alphabetic writing was invented about 3,800 years ago. So we've had, give or take, 4,000 years of conditioning to looking at static documents, static representations of information. And it's only relatively recently in that time scale that we've started to look at information and entertainment dynamically. And now we see this building, especially with broadband internet, relatively recent innovation on that 3,800-year time scale. And what we see from our point of view is this notion that the amount of information is growing astronomically and creating a gap and a need for tools to help manage it and understand it. So that's the origin of our product at a very high level. What we've done is built a product very simply based on a timeline metaphor. Everyone understands the timeline metaphor already, but made it dynamic and allowed you to pull information from a very wide variety of sources across the web into a single, simple interface on one screen. So we'd like you to take a look at our video here for 60 seconds.
There's a vast amount of information online that could be valuable to your business, but no simple way to track and organize it. Until now. Introducing Ticker. Ticker is a new way to track all kinds of business information, as it happens. Tickers are timelines. They automatically gather the information you need, all in one place, where you can share it, organize it, or present it. Let's say you want to track who is tweeting about a company, how many products you are selling, news stories mentioning a competitor, financial market data, traffic from your website, all on one screen. And data from your enterprise reporting systems as well. All in sync, as it happens, on desktop or mobile devices. Ticker can do that. Ticker, it's what's happening now.
So that gives you a quick overview of Ticker and what it does. To look at it in a little more detail, you see the timeline metaphor. You see that these are stacked up and they can scroll. So we can show, say, 15 or 20 of these timelines on one page. They scroll like movie credits vertically. The time scale you see horizontally is variable, typically 24 hours, but it can be anything from 10 minutes to the past quarter, the past year. It's completely adjustable. All of the data sources are shown synchronized, meaning that if you look at a certain point on the timeline that represents 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're seeing the same period of time, same data for the same period of time from all the different sources. So they're synchronized and harmonized. So as this relates to the kinds of issues that we've been hearing at the conference, you might want to have one timeline showing clicks on a microsite around a particular brand that you're marketing, and another timeline showing tweets that mention that brand name, filtered by brand name, and be able to see the impact of these things side by side in context. All the data that you see in the timelines can be archived. So we begin to create this historical context and the ability to go back in time and look at things like how a campaign performed and what the impact was across multiple media, even verging into retail point of sale data and the impact on that, verging into things like financial market data. Was there an impact on your stock price or your competitor's stock price? So what we've tried to do is to create this open, flexible environment that anyone can use. You can put in any keyword for any brand, product, company that you're trying to follow, any person that you're following. And then the timelines snap together like Lego blocks. We're creating a drag and drop interface. So you build configurations of these timelines around particular topics of interest. The product is all web-based. Everything happens in a browser. As you saw in the video, there's nothing limiting Ticker from being used on mobile devices, iPad, Android, and so on. And then something I wanted to mention at the beginning was that we're not technically launched yet, but Quentin has been effective in tracking us down and bringing us out of our garage. So we're in private beta. If you go to ticker.com, it says coming soon. We are in private beta with several customers, working with them, launching the product, working with them, getting feedback, and so on. So we're really in a pre-launch mode, very much interested in hearing feedback on the product and what we're doing, and we're hearing applications and ideas now that are exciting and interesting to us. So we'd welcome today, and also after today, you can go to ticker.com, sign up for announcements, and we'd love to hear from you.
Cool. Tony?
Well, that is Chartbeat. So Chartbeat is real-time analytics services, no longer in the garage, which I sometimes miss. But 4,500 companies now use us, from the people upstairs, the New York Times, through Groupon and Starbucks. And what we do is we look at, if you can just, this is what we do. Right now, this is BusinessInsider.com, who don't give a crap about sharing their data, so we're allowed to show it. This is how many people are on their site right this second. This is what they care about. This is where they came from. This is how engaged they are. How many people are just have it open in a tab somewhere, bored as hell, and how many people are actually engaging? How many people are writing? We give them an instant understanding of what's going on, because when you change time around data, when you make it so that it's not just this collection of past moments, but is of the moment, you change the purpose of data from reporting to response. You change the people who have to use that data from your back office teams to your frontline teams. And you also have to change the way that data is communicated. So that's what we focus on in a nutshell. We provide real-time analytics for your frontline teams in a way that to them is like crack cocaine.
So can we talk a little bit about the types of marketers that are using this, some of the more enlightened folks? Because the thing that jumps out automatically for me around this notion of time, and specifically real time, is marketing used to be or at least the cadence of marketing used to be weeks and months, and the feedback was consolidated and aggregated in a dashboard, and you could pour through those notes endlessly and at some point make a decision and then wait another couple of weeks. But you can't do that in the modern marketing architecture, and your tools illustrate why you need to have a more robust type of organization. Yeah, Maybe talk about the kind of clients you guys have.
Sure. I mean, so I think the best way to kick off is that the kind of transition of the web, which is kind of now replicating itself in everywhere else. And so we went from a search web where you got a huge amount of traffic, but it's spread across a huge number of pages. You would optimize over time. You could think about, we had SEO as a business, and that was fine, and it was a back office mentality. And then the social web came along, and the way the social web worked was fundamentally different to the search web. Instead of traffic to a huge number of pages over a consistent period of time, you had a huge amount of traffic to very few pages for a very short period of time. And what that did is it changed how you grow traffic, how you grow interest, how you react to these things. And so the people who use our service, I say, are twofold. One, it's the people on your front lines, the people who can enact change. Because if there's one mantra I tend to live by is, there's no point in you guys looking at real-time data if you can't act in real time. If you can't respond in real time and take advantage of a moment or mitigate a risk that has shown up while you're looking at real-time data, it's something you've got to get in with your business first. But there is a second one to almost get Don Draperish on you, which is just the other group of people who use us most are, in fact, the CMOs. Because they're not going to be spending their time diving into Omniture for hours and hours upon end to try and draw insights. They're not going to be generating reports. But data should still be the environment that they live in. And so surrounding themselves with real-time data gives them that sense of connection. And it's that connection at the most executive level that real-time data can bring.
So, one of the things that I found most interesting is once you start to lay multiple sources of data on a consistent timeline, is that you start to understand, get a much greater appreciation for cause and effect. Which activities or which mentions or which events triggered outcomes. Can you guys share some examples of the types of insights that can be derived from this kind of timeline-based views?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's one of the things that we found, and we were talking about this earlier, but so my politics are the polar opposite of Glenn Beck's, but I have to have a certain grudging respect for how he works. Because here's a man who, his primary mediums are radio and radio and TV. And real-time data, that ability to see cause and effect just doesn't really exist there. And so one of the things that I've found most fascinating is the way that he's using web data, which he can get in real time, to affect what's happening as a proxy, in fact, for what's happening on TV and radio. So he'll be there doing his radio show, and he'll have dashboards kind of like this, up there showing real-time data on the Blaze on glennbeck.com. And he's A/B testing what's working, what's not for his audience. It's absolutely incredible to see. And we're starting to see that now spread to other areas of the media too. It's phenomenal to see how you get that. Something happened over here, and we can immediately see a response in real time, and we can act on that. It's no longer kind of fire and forget marketing.
Yeah, our customers tend to have Ticker open in a window that's there just running. In fact, one of our customers described Ticker as a kind of custom CNBC channel for their brand that's just running 24/7. And without giving away too much, one of our clients is a consumer goods company, and one of their competitors is vitamin water. And so they're following social media about vitamin water, and I was with them, and we're kind of in a working session, and this woman is tweeting about matching her outfit to the color of the vitamin water that she's drinking that day. And the brand people in the room are just, they've stopped listening to me entirely. They're totally engaged with what this woman's doing and saying, we've got to do this. I mean, what a great inspiration for a campaign, matching, outfits to it's kind of like food and wine pairing, but different. And so getting the kind of inspiration that can come from that real-time moment and having access to that and getting used to that, looking in on it, I think is that was a great kind of use case, if you will, for what we're doing.
So if you were to speculate and say, it's a wish list, what is the one way that you would like clients to use your products, but you haven't seen them used yet?
It's a toughie. Because to be honest, I mean, there are ways to answer this where you could say, I'd love to see kind of more integrated use of the data, more automated understanding of like something's happening. I don't necessarily need a person here. I can have an automatic response in some ways. But to be honest, I think the thing that I most want to see, and I see this a lot, is that the number of people who come and say, we want real-time data in our organization. And they get real-time data in their organization to say, yeah, that's awesome. And then they don't do anything with it. Not enough. Because in order to use it, you have to change the nature of your organization. It's not just accelerated business as usual. It's almost like one person said it's the death of strategy and the primacy of tactics. It's that way of being able to say, the sum total of our small responses are greater than our grand strategy sometimes. And so what I want to see is people able to like democratize decision making within an organization. And then you can really use real-time data.
But whoa, young man, that's not how advertising works.
Yeah, well,
I mean, we've been trained to build an ecosystem and an industry around, polishing a message and creating an asset that distills it down to the brand essence.
Yep.
And then trying to get as many people to see it as efficiently as possible. What you're proposing is not in line with that.
But it's exactly the same problem that publishing had 2.5 years ago. And it's still kind of going through to a large extent, where everything was about creating this polished message. Every day, the editors would decide, okay, this is what we believe is important today, and we're going to create this message, and it's going to be beautiful, and we're going to push it out. And we don't care about real-time data. We don't really care about what people think, what we think is most important. And then you saw this sea change. You saw Nick Denton at Gawker, Paul Berry at the Huffington Post, people who believed in being much more adaptive and responsive. And you saw this transition as people realized they had to be more iterative, more adaptive in their responses, or they would just fall behind. And so that may be how advertising works today. If we're still sitting here 3 years from now and saying that's how advertising works now, I think this won't be the room full of the successful people.
So speaking of that, what about tablets? What about mobile applications? The ability to make decisions while you're not at a desk, as if that was never a requirement.
Yeah.
How does that shape your product development roadmap? Does it shape the visual design? How you think about displaying that data in that new rich, compelling visual format?
I think there's two things. One, from a design perspective, I have no idea if apps as in terms of native apps will win out. I mean, HTML5 is becoming awesome, but what's clear is that the design paths of apps will win. Like the way that you interact with an app will be the way that you interact with websites everywhere in the future. So there's certainly kind of design cues you're going to take from that. But I think the principal thing for us is that whether it's tablets or phones or whatever, it's that data is and this is almost a mantra for us, data is not a report you generate, it's an environment you live in. Which means, yes, it's going to be on your tablet, yes, it's going to be on your phone, it's going to be up on your wall. I mean, I know one office where they have lava lamps everywhere, and the lava lamps change color based upon business data. That's an environment of data. It's kind of crazy, but it's an environment of data. And this is what we're seeing. There's not going to be a place anymore where you're disconnected. There's not going to be a place where you have to go and have to look something up to find it. It's going to be there. You're going to be living in it. It's like an extra sense. That's what this means to me.
My teenagers live on the iPad and their phones. And the PC, the desktop PC, is kind of a grown-up, older folks thing. And for our product development, I mean, we're new. So mobile's been a force since long before we started developing our product. So mobile access, making the data consumable in a mobile environment on the fly is just, it's part of everything we do. Every design decision we make, it's extremely important.
Okay, so let's fast forward 5 years.
Finally.
Describe the type of products you guys have in place, and describe the kinds of clients that are using it and to what kind of effect.
You can go first.
Go ahead. No, I'll go. We're seeing some behavior, still at the early stages again, because we're early, where we sit with our client teams and spend days with them, watch them work, and listen to their pain points. And we're starting to see a pattern where if somebody has an idea, not necessarily a new product that's been planned is being launched, but just an idea, they want to make a ticker page for it. And somebody hears about a new competitor they haven't heard about before, they want to make a ticker page for it. This emerging market is coming on strong. Take something like cloud computing. Think back to the first time you heard the term cloud computing, they want to make a ticker page for that. So, and have these all running 24/7, monitoring topics of interest around the business, so that when it does come time to invest, put money on the line, put budget on the line, they have some history, they have some context going back over time about, hey, the volume, cloud computing, I just heard of it for the first time 2 months ago, the volume of mentions on this is going through the roof. So they have some context for that. So whenever you start a product, project, idea, concept, make a ticker page. That's our dream.
Blimey. So I guess there's my hopes for my company, and there's my hopes for the kind of wider way that we use data. And we're still, in the large part, still using data very much like the black box of an aircraft. We let our plane fly. After it crashes, we go in and we understand everything that happened. And that's great. But I don't want to build the black box. I want to build the cockpit thing, which is telling you what's happening and also letting you act at that moment. And it means that it's not just about giving you data, presenting you with data and saying, hey, this is what's happening. We've got to go beyond that. We're going to be dealing with people who have coming out of college who have no understanding of a whole ton of stuff, speaking for myself when I came out of college. And we have to go beyond just data and into giving them recommendations, showing them what they should be doing, and then giving them the ability to act within that same interface to do so. And for a CMO, they've got to be so intimately connected with their brand and how their brand is doing in that moment that it's their pulse. If I can do that, if I can get it so that every single moment they feel comfort and the knowledge that if there's something bad happening, they know they can mitigate. If something's good happening, they can double down. If I can do that, I'll be happy.